I never thought I'd wake up in someone else's skin, staring at my own face in the mirror like some twisted funhouse reflection. But there I was, trapped in the body of the woman who'd stolen my life, my husband, my son, my everything. The divorce papers hit the table like a gunshot at little Timmy's 5th birthday party, served by my mother-in-law with that viper smile, right in front of the cake and the balloons. And as the room froze in horrified silence, I didn't scream or cry. I just smiled back, wider than I'd ever smiled in my life. Because revenge isn't about tears, it's about becoming the monster they made you. And, in that moment, slipping into her shell felt like slipping on the perfect pair of gloves, ready to choke the truth out of every last one of them. It started 6 months earlier, back when life was still mine, back when I was Emily Hargrove, not this ghost haunting my own wreckage. We'd just moved into that sprawling McMansion in Oak Ridge Heights, the kind of place where every driveway screams, "I've arrived," with its white picket fence and solar panels that my husband, David, insisted on because sustainability is the new status symbol. David was the golden boy of his family, heir to Hargrove Industries, the empire his father built on steel and secrets. And his mother, Victoria Hargrove, God, even her name dripped with entitlement, was the queen bee pulling strings from her penthouse in downtown Chicago. I loved him fiercely. The way you love a storm you think you can weather, his broad shoulders from lacrosse days at Yale, his easy laugh that masked the boardroom shark underneath. And Timmy, our miracle boy, with his mop of curly hair and eyes like David's. He was the glue holding it all together. But cracks had been forming for years. Hairline fractures I ignored because that's what good wives do. Right? Victoria never liked me, called me the help from the wrong side of the tracks behind my back, even though I'd clawed my way through community college and a marketing gig at a firm that paid peanuts but built my resume. She wanted David married to some debutante with a trust fund, not a girl from the Rust Belt suburbs who'd met him at a charity gala where I was volunteering. Still, I played nice, Sunday brunches at her club, biting my tongue when she'd suggest I lose the baby weight faster, nodding along as she rewrote our holiday plans to fit her calendar. David always smoothed it over with a wink and a "mom means well" famous last words. The betrayal hit like a freight train on a rainy Tuesday in April. I'd come home early from a client pitch, nauseous, actually, from what I thought was stress, and found them in our bed. David and Victoria. Not just a slip, no. This was orchestrated. Her silk robe discarded like a trophy. His whispers of "we can finally be free" echoing off the walls. I stood there, frozen in the doorway, the world tilting as the pieces clicked, the business trips to Chicago that stretched longer each time. The way she'd poison him against me with tales of my instability, the anonymous emails to his board suggesting I was embezzling from the company. It wasn't just an affair, it was a coup. She'd been grooming him to divorce me, to hand over custody of Timmy, to erase me so she could install herself as the doting grandmother mistress in our home. I didn't confront them. Not then. I backed out quietly, heart hammering, and drove to the only place that felt safe, my old apartment in the city, a dingy walk-up I'd sublet to a friend. That's where the accident happened, or what I thought was an accident. Slamming on brakes to avoid a deer on the interstate. My SUV flipped, glass shattering like my illusions, and the last thing I saw was headlights bearing down, Victoria's face flashing in my mind like a curse. Doctors said I flatlined for 4 minutes. But when I woke up, it wasn't in my body. It was in hers. I don't know how it happened. Science calls it impossible, some quantum glitch. A near-death swap cooked up in the ether, but there I was, staring at my own bruised face in the hospital mirror. My hands, her hands, trembling as they touched skin that wasn't mine. Victoria's body, 52 years of Botox and Pilates, lithe and commanding, with manicured nails that could draw blood without trying. The nurses buzzed around me, cooing over the poor wife in the coma ward, while the real Victoria, trapped in my shattered shell, could only blink in terror from the bed across the hall. Our eyes met through the glass partition, and in that gaze, I saw her realize the gods, or whatever sadistic force runs this show, had flipped the script. The first days were a blur of stolen moments. Posing as Victoria, I handled the calls from David's lawyers. My voice, her voice, dripping honeyed concern as I signed off on my transfers to offshore accounts. Timmy's birthday loomed like a guillotine. The party she'd planned to perfection, caterers from Le Bernardin, a bounce house imported from L.A., gifts wrapped in custom paper from Bergdorf's. I attended as her, gliding through the prep with a martini in hand, while the real me wasted away under sedation, tubes snaking into flesh that no longer answered to her will. Party day arrived under a sky bruised purple, the kind of Midwest autumn that promises frostbite in your soul. Our backyard transformed into a Pinterest fever dream, string lights twinkling like false stars, a jazz quartet playing Happy Birthday in swing time, relatives in cashmere sweaters milling about with champagne flutes. David, ever the host, clapped backs and cracked jokes about family first, his arms slung around Victoria's waist, my waist now, as if nothing had changed. Timmy tore through wrapping paper, squealing over a remote-control dinosaur that roared on command, his joy a knife twist in my gut. Then she struck. Victoria, in my body, propped in a wheelchair they'd wheeled out for dramatic effect, was pushed forward by a nurse. Her eyes wild but her hand steady as she slapped the envelope onto the linen-draped table. "Sign it, Emily," she rasped through my vocal cords, the words slurred but venomous. "You're done poisoning my son." The papers, ironclad, citing infidelity on my part, fabricated texts, doctored photos. Mental instability, her planted confessions from my journal, and a psych eval she'd bribed a doc to fake. Gasps rippled through the crowd, Aunt Lydia dropped her fork. Uncle Frank choked on his scotch, as cameras from the local news invited for the heartwarming family milestone, word to life. David's face crumpled, a mix of feigned shock and rehearsed pity.
Ink.
What the hell? Not here. Not now. But his eyes flicked to Victoria, me, with that hungry gleam, the one I'd caught in our bedroom that rainy day. The guests whispered, "Poor David, trapped in this mess. She's always been off. Think of the boy." I could have raged, collapsed, begged. Instead, I smiled. Slow, serpentine, the kind of grin that says I've already won. "Of course, darling," I purred in her patrician drawl, plucking the pen from the stack. "Anything for family," scrawled her signature with a flourish, then slid the papers back across the table, right into Timmy's chocolate-frosted fingers. He giggled, thinking it a game, smearing icing on the notary seal. The room held its breath as I stood, smoothed my Chanel skirt, and leaned down to kiss my son's sticky cheek. "Be good for Daddy, sweetheart. Mommy loves you." Then I walked away, heels clicking on flagstone, spine straight as a blade, leaving the wreckage in my wake. Shocked murmurs chased me. Did she just? Who serves papers at a child's party? But I didn't look back. Revenge wasn't in the signing, it was in the vanishing. The ghosting that would unravel them thread by thread. That night. Holed up in Victoria's, no. My temporary penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. I poured a double scotch and mapped the battlefield. The swap wasn't just a fluke, it was a weapon, forged in the fire of her sins. I'd always known about the family skeletons, whispers of Daddy Hargrove's accidents at the mill, workers vanishing into lawsuits settled with NDAs thicker than the Chicago fog. But Victoria? She was the architect, the one who'd buried deeper, embezzling from the company to fund her lovers, framing rivals for fraud. Even that hidden run in '09 she'd pinned on the gardener. And me? I'd taken the fall for one of her messes years ago, back when David and I were dating. A rival ex daughter accused me of leaking trade secrets. Bullshit. But Victoria's doing? To test my loyalty or sabotage the match. I lost my job, my reputation in tatters, but swallowed it for love. Now, in her skin, those secrets were mine to exhume. First move, the money. Victoria's accounts were a fortress, Swiss banks, shell core in the Caymans, but I'd watched her enough to know the cracks. Posing as her, I called the family accountant, old Mr. Ellis, voice quivering just enough to sell the post-accident stress. Divert everything to the trust for Timmy, I sobbed. David's not thinking straight. That woman's got him bewitched. Ellis, loyal to the matriarch, didn't question it. By dawn, $12 million siphoned, frozen in a blind trust only I could access as Victoria. David's empire? Crumbling without her invisible strings. Next, the evidence. I hired a PI discreet, ex-Fed, the kind who charges in crypto, with her black Amex. He dug fast, photos of her and David in the Maldives last winter, while I chased Timmy through snow forts back home. Emails plotting my disappearance via a shady clinic specializing in extended comas. But the gem? Proof of the original sin. Victoria had orchestrated Daddy Hargrove's suicide in 15, forging notes to inherit control, all while David turned a blind eye. Too deep in her web. She'd made him complicit. Her perfect puppet prince. Controversy brewed online by morning. The party footage went viral. Monster-in-law's cruel divorce stunned Shock's nation, with talking heads on Fox and CNN debating if Victoria was the villain or if poor Emily had it coming. I fed the fire anonymously from burner accounts, leaked audio of her slurring threats in my body. Captioned, "Hear the real Victoria, unmasked." Feminists rallied for me. Conservatives for family values under siege. David issued a tearful statement. "We're heartbroken, seeking counseling." Hypocrite. I smiled at my laptop screen, the city lights winking like conspirators. But guilt gnawed. Timmy God, my baby boy, texted from David's phone. "Mommy come home? Miss hugs." Each word a barb. Was I abandoning him for this vendetta? The swap had rules. Or so the doctors muttered in hushed tones when they thought I wasn't listening. Neural echoes fading. Bodies rejecting foreign souls after weeks. Maybe months. If I didn't reverse it soon, we'd both die. Her and my husk. Me and hers. A specialist in Boston whispered of experimental tech. A resonance chamber blending quantum entanglement with deep brain stim. But it cost a fortune and risked everything. Controversial? Hell. It was black market mad science. The kind that got labs shut down. But for Timmy, for justice, I'd roll the dice. David called that afternoon. Voice slick as oil. "Vic, Mom, what the fuck was that smile? You set this up?" I laughed. Low and throaty. Her signature cackle. "Just expediting the inevitable. Darling." Emily's weak. You deserve better. He bought it, hook and sinker, inviting me to the house for a strategy session. Trap or opportunity? I drove out under cover of dusk, the Bentley purring like a predator. Her diamond tennis bracelet glinting as a reminder. This power was borrowed. But oh, how it fit. The house felt alien. My own photos airbrushed from frames. Timmy's toys rearranged into sterile order. David waited in the study. Decanter open. Tie loosened. We need to end this quietly, he said. Pouring. Custody's a nightmare now. I perched on the desk's edge, crossing legs that weren't mine, and let my hand brush his thigh, just enough to ignite the old spark. Quietly? Where's the fun in that? His breath hitched, eyes darkening, and for a split second, I hated myself. Was I becoming her? Seducing my own husband in this stolen flesh? But then he leaned in, murmuring plans to institutionalize me, real me, rotting in the clinic, and the revulsion burned clean. I played along, whispering promises of boardroom purges, all while palming his phone. Unlocked. Of course, trust is the first casualty of affairs. Text to his lawyer. Double the payout. Make sure she never sees the kid. Photos of Timmy with the nanny. Captioned future without her. I forwarded it all to my PI. Then shattered the glass in my fist, her fist. Unscarred by life's grit, drawing blood for authenticity. Oops, I purred, licking the cut. Passion makes me clumsy. He bandaged it, doting, oblivious to the noose tightening. By week's end, the leaks hit. David's affair splashed across the Tribune. Stock in Hargrove Industries tanking 15%. Protests outside the HQ. Widows of mill workers chanting, justice for the forgotten. Victoria, in my body, raged from her hospital bed, scribbling pleas on a notepad. Give it back. You bitch. Nurses thought it dementia. I visited once, leaning close to whisper, feel that? That's the weight of your sins. Vicky. Enjoy the view from the bottom. My eyes bulged, a tear tracing the scar from the crash. Mercy? Not yet. The climax brewed in shadows. David's board called an emergency meeting, and as Victoria, I strode in like a general, silk blouse unbuttoned just so, armed with dossiers thicker than Bibles. Gentlemen, I began. Voice steel-wrapped velvet. Your CEO's compromised. Resign or face the IRS. Fabricated audits. Her old tricks turned against him. They balked. Loyalty's a bitch until I dropped the bomb. Recordings of David greenlighting bribes to foreign officials. Her voice coaching him. Chaos erupted. Shouts. Slamming doors. One old codger clutching his chest. Controversial? Absolutely. Ruining lives for revenge. Collateral damage be damned. But they'd stolen mine first. David cornered me post-meeting. Face purple. You traitorous cunt. What are you playing at? I smiled that smile again. The one that chilled blood. Playing? This is checkmate. Love. Sign over the company. The house. Timmy's trust, or watch it all burn. He lunged, hands around my throat, her throat, and for a heartbeat, I let him, gasping truths. It's me, David. Emily. Feel familiar? His grip slackened, horror dawning as neural flickers bridged the gap. Echoes of our wedding night flashing in his eyes. Impossible. But I need him. Hard. And left him wheezing on the marble floor. The resonance chamber waited in a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Boston. The kind of place where tech bros chase unicorns and the FDA looks the other way.
Dr.
Elias Crow, tousled hair. Lab coat over a Metallica tee. Eyes gleaming with that mad scientist seal, greeted me with a handshake that lingered too long. Mrs. Hargrove, your case is unprecedented. Soul transference? It's like dark matter. We see effects, not the cause. $2 million wired. No questions, her money. My salvation. The machine hummed in the corner, a sarcophagus of coils and screens, pulsing blue like a trapped aurora. Risks? I asked, stripping to the gown. He shrugged. Rejection, psychosis,
Death.
or enlightenment. Controversial choice. Strap into this Frankenstein contraption, or let the swap solidify. Dooming us both to half-lives? Across town, real-time feeds from my PI showed the fallout accelerating. Victoria, feral in my skin, had clawed her way to a private room, bribing guards to smuggle in a lawyer. But I'd anticipated. Falsified records painted Emily as delusional, committed indefinitely. David, holed up in a motel off I-90, far from his kingly bed, drank himself stupid, fielding calls from creditors as the stock plummeted further. Timmy shuffled to Victoria's sister, Aunt Lydia, who FaceTimed me, her, with crocodile tears, the boy's asking for his mommy. Which one? I cooed assurances, then hung up and vomited. The guilt a lead weight. Was this justice or just another layer of hell? American dream twisted. Bootstrap your way to the top, only to find the ladders rigged with snakes. The procedure kicked off at midnight, under a moonless sky that mirrored my mood. Strapped in, electrodes kissing temples, Crow injected the cocktail, psychedelics laced with nootropics, to loosen the bonds. Visions crashed, wedding vows morphing to bedroom betrayals. Timmy's birth cries echoing with Victoria's sneers. Breathe, Crow murmured, as the chamber whirred to life, electricity arcing like Judgment Day. Pain bloomed, fire in veins, soul scraping like tectonic plates, and suddenly, I was falling, tumbling through a void where faces blurred. Mine. Hers. David's. Timmy's innocent grin. A voice. Not mine. You can't win.
Emily.
I'm the spine of this family. Bullshit. I clawed back, screaming silently. Then I'll break it. Hours later, or was it minutes, I woke gasping in. My body?
No.
Still hers. Failure? Crow shook his head. Monitors beeping defeat. Partial sync. You're anchored deeper than we thought. Need a conduit, something emotional. Visceral. Desperation clawed. Timmy. The boy was the key. The love that bound me to life. Risky as hell. Expose him to this madness. But what choice? Dawn broke as I flew commercial, her jet grounded by lanes. Landing in Chicago with a duffel of cash and a forged ID. David's hideout was pathetic, a Super 8 with flickering neon. The clerk eyeing my designer coat like I'd mugged a mannequin. He answered the door shirtless, stubble shadowing his jaw, bottle in hand.
Vic?
How'd you? I shoved past, locking eyes. Shut up and listen. It's me. Emily. Laughter barked from him.
Bitter.
The crash fried your brain. Get out before I call security. I grabbed his wrist, pressing it to her chest. Feel that heartbeat? It's the same one that raced when you proposed on Navy Pier. Remember the rain? The ring in the sand. Flickers hit him again. Harder. He staggered. Whiskey spilling.
Ink.
How? Truth serum time. I spilled it all. The swap. the leaks, the chamber. His face cycled shock to rage to something softer. Regret? I was weak. She manipulated. Save the sob story, I snapped. Timmy. Where is he? Lydia's brownstone. He confessed. Under protective custody. We drove in silence. Tension thick as exhaust. His knuckles white on the wheel. Controversial alliance. Team up with the cheater to save our son? Hell yes. Or die trying. Lydia's place screamed old money, wrought iron gate. Rose bushes thorny as grudges. Timmy played in the garden, pushing a truck through gravel. Oblivious. Mommy, he yelled, spotting Grandma Vic. Me through the window. Heart shatter. I scooped him up, inhaling his shampoo scent, as David hovered awkward. Lydia emerged, pearls clutched. Victoria? What's this? Confrontation. She knew fragments, complicit in the cover-ups, but denied the affair. Family protects family.
Bull.
I whispered to Timmy. Close your eyes.
Buddy.
Game time. Slipped the conduit, a locket with his baby tooth, symbol of our bond, into his tiny palm. Then synced it to the app Crow sent, a neural bridge, piggybacking on the tooth's DNA echo. Activation buzzed in my pocket. Hold tight, baby. Energy surged. Timmy giggling at the tickles as the pull yanked, souls stretching like taffy. Visions again, Victoria's memories flooding. Her childhood abuses forging the monster. Daddy's neglect birthing the control freak. Pity flickered, then fury. David's hand on my shoulder grounded me. Fight.
Eminência.
The swap tore free with a psychic snap. Bodies convulsing in the grass. Lydia screamed. Timmy wailed. When it cleared, I blinked up at my own face, real. Scarred. Mine, gasping air that tasted like home. Victoria thrashed in her shell, coughing venom. You'll regret. But the twist hit like a sucker punch. As clarity returned, fragments slotted. The crash? No accident. David had rigged the brakes, on her orders, to remove me cleanly. But in the chaos, the swap happened, karma's cruel joke. He confessed. Sobbing now, she made me. For the company. For us. Us, the golden future, without the burden. Betrayal squared. Deeper than I'd imagined. I'd suffered not just for her schemes, but his willing hands. Sirens wailed in the distance. Lydia's screams had summoned the cavalry as Victoria lunged, nails raking my arm, her face a mask of unhinged fury. You think this ends it? I own you. All of you. But she didn't. Not anymore. David restrained her. Cuffs improvised from his belt. His eyes pleading with me.
Please.
We can fix this. For Timmy, the boy clung to my leg, thumb in mouth, eyes wide saucers. Fix it? With what? More lies? The empire she'd built on bones was ash, board members jumping ship. Feds circling like vultures on the embezzlement tips I'd anonymously dropped. Controversial calculus. Forgive the father of my child. Or burn it all for purity's sake. Cops arrived in a blur of blue lights. Statements taken amid the rose petals. Victoria ranted about imposters committed on the spot. Ironic payback. David spun a tale of family reconciliation gone wrong, painting me the hero victim. I played along, voice steady, just wanted my son back. But inside, a storm. The swap had scarred deeper than skin. Echoes of her arrogance lingered. A whisper urging, take it all. I shoved it down. focusing on Timmy's warmth against me. Weeks blurred into a tense limbo. Court battles raged, custody hearings in a sterile DuPage County courtroom, where Judge Harlan, a grizzled vet with a no-bullshit squint, grilled David on the affair docs. Now public fodder. Mr. Hargrove, you expect this court to hand a child to a man who bedded his mother? Gasps from the gallery. Reporters scribbling frenzy. David's lawyers spun extenuating circumstances, but the viral party video damned him. I testified in my own voice. Raw and ragged, he chose power over us. But I'll fight clean for Timmy.
Clean? Huh.
I'd seeded the scandals. But let the truth do the rest. Victoria's trial hit like a bombshell. Federal charges, fraud, manslaughter, Daddy's suicide unraveled by my PI's forensics. Conspiracy to commit murder, the breaks. She lawyered up with the best. But cracks showed. Breakdowns on the stand. Shrieking, that wasn't me, as affair tapes played. The twist reversed everything. Turns out, she'd been the fall guy too.
Once.
Flash drives from her safe revealed Daddy's original sins, forcing her into the family business at 16. Covering his pedo rings with her as bait. She'd risen by becoming him, devouring the weak to survive.
Pity?
A sliver. But it didn't absolve, it explained. The nation debated, villain or victim of patriarchy's meat grinder. Free Victoria trended alongside Justice for Emily. David cornered me one rain-lashed night outside the courthouse. Timmy asleep in the car. I love you.
Eminência.
Always have. She twisted me, guilt from Dad. The pressure. Rain plastered his hair. That boyish charm peeking through the ruin. Controversial decision loomed. Reconciliation. Messy and real. Or exile him to his wreckage. I studied him. The man I'd built dreams on. Now hollowed. Love isn't enough if it's built on graves. But Timmy's face in the rear view, peaceful, trusting, tipped the scale. Therapy. Separate homes. Prove it daily. He nodded, tears mixing with downpour. A happy ending? Maybe. Or just a truce in the war. Months on, the dust settled uneasy. Hargrove Industries restructured under a caretaker CEO, me. Interim. Channeling her ruthlessness for good. Worker co-ops. Transparency audits. Stock rebounded. But the name carried scars. Timmy thrived in our modest rental. Dinosaurs roaring anew. His questions about grandma's sickness met with age-soft lies. Victoria rotted in Supermax. Appeals denied. Her letters to me scrawled hate. Then please, shredded unread. David, weekend dad. Earning trust inch by inch. His eyes lighting when Timmy scored a goal at soccer. Yet the swap's ghost haunted. Nightmares of her gaze in the mirror. Doubts if I was truly me or a hybrid horror. The climax's revenge? Bittersweet. I'd reclaimed my life. But at what cost? Innocence lost. Family fractured? Reader's hell. The world would argue. Heroic takedown of toxic elites. Or vengeful spiral destroying all in reach. I smiled at that. Sipping coffee on our porch as autumn leaves fell like confetti from a funeral. Shocking? Damn right. But in America, where dreams die hard and rise harder, it's the only way to win.